Mark Warner voted for the Laken Riley Act. He must be gearing up for a Senate re-election run. Chris Graham here, Augusta Free Press. Your first indication that Mark Warner is planning to run for re-election is that vote for the Laken Riley Act, the pretend get tough on immigration bill that will allow the Trump administration to go after DACAs, the Dreamers, and people under temporary protected status protections. Here's a quote from Warner, trying to sound as Republican as he possibly can. The loss of Laken Riley was a heartbreaking reminder of the need to strike a balance between keeping our communities safe and ensuring that our immigration system is both humane and effective. All right. How does this bill do that? He was one of the 12 Democrats who voted to pass the bill, which will allow the feds to detain and deport immigrants without legal status for arrest for even low-level misdemeanors, even if no charges are ultimately waged against them. You can see how this would and ultimately will be abused. Local cops are going to be empowered to participate in mass immigrant sweeps using this legislation as the authorization that won't have to pass judicial scrutiny. Here's a quote from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. These are the people that want you to believe and want us to believe that they are keeping violent criminals off the streets. That's what they want you to believe. The House voted on Wednesday to pass the Senate version of the bill with 46 Republicans voting, or 46 Democrats joining Republicans voting the majority, I should say. The bill now goes to Trump, and we all know what's going to happen with that. He's going to get his Sharpie out and get this thing going. The frustrating thing here is with Mark Warner voting yes, he even acknowledged in his statement that the bill has flaws. Here's a quote. While I ultimately voted to support this legislation, I also acknowledge it is imperfect and could have been improved by amendments I supported to streamline its enforcement mechanisms and target the most dangerous criminals. Continuing with Warner's quote, as we work to improve our immigration system, I remain committed to finding common ground that holds criminals accountable while protecting the ideals that define us as a nation. Uh, Finishing up here, he's trying to play both sides. America and Virginia have been made stronger by many immigrants. I will continue to hold the administration answerable for executing all the laws faithfully and fairly in accordance with our values in the Constitution. Fat chance of that happening with Donald Trump being the guy executing them faithfully and fairly, sure. Advice here to Warner, talking out of both sides of your mouth doesn't fool anybody. In other words, Republican voters are still going to assume you're a George Soros-funded communist and vote for whoever, literally whoever the Republicans put up, convicted felon or otherwise, in 2026. And on something like this, here's the other warning, I guess I could say. The Democrats who've been sending you back to Washington every few years are going to be less enthused to do so again. I'm not going to say they're going to vote against you. They're just not going to put signs in their yards and go out and knock on doors. I mean, because what's the difference? You are the Republican in this sense. Radical centrist is going to radical centrist, I guess. Now, for another way to do this, we wrap up here with a statement from Jennifer McClellan, a Democrat who represents Virginia's 4th District in Congress. This one's got some meat to it, so give me a second. Quote, last Congress, congressional leadership negotiated a strong bipartisan immigration reform bill to secure the southern border. We were fully prepared to advance this legislation, but Donald Trump urged his conference to kill the bill for political reasons. Now, congressional Republicans seek to exploit Laken Riley's tragic death as a means to pass this overreaching anti-immigrant legislation. Under current law, any undocumented immigrant arrested or convicted of a felony can be detained without bail and deported. This bill goes even further to mandate detention and deportation of any undocumented immigrant merely charged with or arrested for certain crimes, even if charges are dropped or they are found not guilty. This bill clearly oversteps and undermines due process, paving the way for immigrants to be deported without regard to innocence or guilt. Wild idea here. Maybe Jennifer McClellan should run for Warner's seat in the 2026 cycle.